Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and many of you heard by now about the Bondi Beach massacre, the shooting that happened in Australia that of course led to nearly coming up on possibly 2 dozen deaths. Now they're still counting. It's about 16, but there's a lot of injured, and it's an absolute tragedy, but something doesn't quite add up about what is happening over there. And as I've said many times before, December and January seem to be so-called false flag season, and it doesn't seem any different this year. In most cases, it tends to be the case that what we're witnessing are false flags. Of course, not always, but this one has a lot of red flags to it. And I want to go into what those are and what we know so far, because so far, we obviously can only know so much within a 24-hour timeline. But the narratives being pushed right now, the claims by governments that it's Iran and all that kind of stuff, it should raise a lot of red flags for everyone. We're going to go into this and more today, my friends. Before I do, I urge you guys to go and check those links below. This is the best sale we've ever had at Heaven's Harvest. 25% off if you use code WAM, WAM. That's 25% off on long-term storable foods. That's non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, books on how to get started, freeze-dried food. Again, 25% off just for the Christmas season. Code WAM, WAM, over at heavensharvest.com. Please get prepared today and don't be left behind in the food rations to come in the technocracy that's being built. Also, make sure to check our link for Wave Watch 2.2. Get the pre-order now, 1,250 frequencies. No Wi-Fi required, no Bluetooth or EMFs. It's been endorsed by people like Dr. Brian Ardis, and of course, it soothes your nerves, boosts your energy, enhances cellular function, and improves sleep, among many other things. Use code WAM, WAM, and you will get more than $100 off on your order. So please go and check that link in the description. Let's get into this. So we're seeing a few lessons that we could learn about this Bondi Beach massacre, and they breach multiple different lines of inquiry here. Australia took away its citizens' guns, as Don Keith says, but 10 people at Bondi Beach are dead anyway because terrorists don't care about gun laws. The only thing the Australian government did was make sure its unarmed, law-abiding citizens are now sitting ducks, unable to defend themselves, of course, since their gun grab in 1996, which I believe was itself a false flag. We could go into that all day, but we're going to focus on this today. Because, yes, one of the issues, of course, is a weakness among society, is prime for collapsing a society, demoralization as well. Australia has been in a stranglehold for a very long time by technocrats and far left socialists, of course. But, and the COVID stuff was a huge example of that, but it's been going on for a long time. The demonetization of the currency, they want people to be completely controlled there. And as some people are pointing out with this attack, so it was on a Hanukkah event, they say. It was targeting Jews, they say. It seems like the perfect storm for normalization towards further warfare. And the biometrics are bringing in regarding migration, which, of course, the mass migration is a problem, but it was created on purpose to get a reaction in order to bring in their solution. Eric Spracklin says there's so much footage of the Bondi Beach attack, and many of the videos are from very close to the shooters. Where did all these videos come from? Who films the shootings up close and personal and doesn't run for their life? This is all so odd to me. We're seeing a lot of stuff, and then people just wandering around in the background where he's shooting at, which is kind of strange as well. There's a lot just strange about this whole thing. And we've seen insane video footage coming out from on the ground at Bondi Beach. And again, like right up close, including professional photography from like the Daily Mail, which is also rather strange. But again, not immediate evidence of anything and not necessarily groundbreaking. But it gets really weird. It continues to get weirder. As I mentioned, these issues with weakness of a society collapsing it. The cops, where there's a police station right by where this happened, the cops cowered. They're almost all female cops. They came to the scene. No offense to the women listening out there, but when, we have to be calm under pressure when there is something like this happening, a massacre, waiting 20 minutes and freezing during the shooting rampage. And we see these photos of these female cops with their hands up, cowering behind things. That is somewhat concerning to look at. And I think also very concerning to Australians that want to feel like they're somewhat protected. But alas, this was another example, and I'll get to later why what we've seen is so interesting here, because what we have is a human being, a citizen, an individual coming up and stopping the attacker and disarming him. One of them, anyway. There's two attackers, and they're saying they're father and son. So we have this guy disarmed, pushed to the ground. The guy who disarmed him apparently got shot in the shoulder and knee, the leg and the shoulder by the other attacker. Apparently, he's being identified as Ahmed El Ahmed, a 43-year-old fruit shop owner. He tackled and disarmed one of the terrorists by seizing their firearm and was then shot in the leg and shoulder by another attacker. And, you know, there's been a lot of stuff going around about the guy being named Eric Crabtree, but I think that has been thoroughly debunked at this point. It was Ahmed El Ahmed, and absolute hero. Amazing what individuals can do versus what we see the police doing that are, you know, stacking up piles of cash, restricting people, arresting people for social media posts, beating them down for not wearing masks while walking in the park by themselves way back when. I mean, this is what you get. Here are the polar opposites, my friends. Individualism versus collectivism. Something I just need to point out here. But alas, here we have the Bondi Beach hero, and absolutely amazing, and doesn't go along with the narrative. A Muslim man, apparently from Syria, fighting this other Muslim man who is of Pakistani descent and disarming him and getting shot while doing it, but not wavering in the face of all this. And now we also hear all of the narratives start to pop up about where this is going to head, which we need to be looking at, because if you want to know the future, just look at what they're saying right now. I mean, a senior U.S. official told Fox News that if the Australia attack was ordered by Iran, the U.S. fully recognizes Israel's right to strike Iran in response. That's insane. That's insane. It's always Iran. They're blaming Venezuela on Iran. They're saying that the Mexican cartels are run by Iran, and that's why they should be able to do land strikes in Mexico now and in Colombia. They're saying everything in the world is Iran. Meanwhile, Israeli politicians basically control with blackmail and funding mass amounts of politicians around the world and get them to give them a bunch of money while starting mass conflicts in the Middle East. Adam says, Israel blames Bondi Beach shooting on Iran. Both Yonette and the former editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post spout this obvious lie. I'm sorry, but this means I'm going to have to officially call this a false flag. Avi Meir says, Israeli officials increasingly believe Iran was behind the Hanukkah massacre at Bondi Beach, and according to Yonette. Okay. So, once again, the same old characters blame the same old characters. Clockwork every damn time. Does it ever miss? Does it ever miss? It's always Iran or Hezbollah or these Muslim terrorists who were armed and funded by Mossad, by the CIA for years. I mean, look at what just happened in Washington, D.C. with the National Guard shooting. Guy was a member of the zero unit for the CIA in Afghanistan as a child soldier for the CIA, gets in through a secret visa process and a deal with the CIA into the U.S. and then does the shooting. I mean, every single damn time. And then look at this guy. Look at, if you ever handled a gun before, which, by the way, most people in Australia haven't because they have this insane laws since 1996. Even before that, they didn't have the best laws. This guy is very good at this. He's done this before. He's trained. People don't just pick up a gun. If you ever see someone pick up a gun for the first time and start shooting like that, they're a prodigy. and he's hitting from far away, getting direct shots on people, including like a 300-meter shot on the what they called the hero of Bondi Beach. I mean, gets him in the leg and the shoulder from far away, and he's getting all these people boom, 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 quick and very professional. This isn't a guy who just picked up a gun for the first time. And where did he get that gun, by the way? Those guns are very illegal there. Again, more evidence that criminals don't follow gun laws. But on top of that, this is a bit deeper than that. It seems like those who make the laws are the ones who train this guy. Meanwhile, they're trying to like blame Iran for the Bondi attack. But as Syrian Girl writes on X, only problem is the attacker was a Wahabi from Pakistan who hates Shia and Iran. This is a smoking gun in the sense that I believe absolutely Israel has something to do with that. And by the way, Israel has no problem killing their own people. Look what they did with the Hannibal Directive on October 7th. They say around 72% of the deaths on October 7th was Israel actually shooting these people themselves, which they had knowledge of through Operation Jericho Wall and other operations and projects that go back years that went in detail to every detail of the October 7th attack, down to how many people would be kidnapped, where it would happen, how long there'd be a stand down order. I mean, give me a break. And then, yeah, they're claiming this guy would be connected to Iran. If you know anything about Islam and if you know what Wahhabism is, and Wahhabism was basically planted through chaos in the Middle East by Israel. This is what I've been trying to say for so long. When people say, well, we have to stop Islam in the Middle East because if we don't, Israel will be destroyed. They're the only ones fighting them, blah, 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 blah. First of all, if you go back to the 60s and 70s, Afghanistan, for example, you have a bunch of people who were like women on beaches with bikinis or wearing skirts or going to work or driving and doing all this kind of stuff. Then you fast forward to now and the Taliban runs the place. Wahhabism was planted in the region by Israel. And that is a well-known fact through the arming of the Mujahideen, Al Qaeda, and then fast forward to ISIS, the Muslim Brotherhood. This has been the case for a very long time, and part of it was to overthrow multiple parts of the Middle East regions, including Syria, Iraq, yes, eventually Iran, of course, Afghanistan, Pakistan, all these other places. And Yemen, obviously, is another major one there. And this has been exposed with their own government documentation and their own admittance that they're arming and funding these groups, including Hamas. And then the bragging about causing mass migration to the West, which Netanyahu has done on multiple occasions. While, by the way, being virtuous and saying, and by the way, this is not justification for what happened in Bondi. That's absolutely horrible. It's a tragedy. We need to be praying for the families and of course, standing by them. But when we are looking at this long term, this isn't whataboutisms. It's just a reality for them to be so virtuous about things and say, hey, we as Israelis condemn this horrible attack and this tragedy. Jews are always the victims of everything, blah, 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 while killing 100,000 people in Palestine in a couple of years, the majority of them children, raping male prisoners who were just citizens that were walking down the street, not necessarily Hamas fighters, but citizens, raping them on camera, men getting raped on camera by IDF soldiers. And then when questioned, the IDF says, well, we have the right by God to do that. I mean, that's insane. We could go on and on and on about this. I mean, just the absolute disgusting chaos that has been caused in the Middle East and continues to under a fake ceasefire. Same with Lebanon. That needs to be examined. So if there would be blowback, I wouldn't be surprised. However, I don't think this is blowback. I think that this is a pretext to die down attacks against Zionism and promote further support for war, which they always do around this time of year. And they did last year in Syria with the overthrowing of Assad at around this time last year, which was literally documented by the CIA back in the 80s, which I reported on back in 2018. And I've shown that many times in my videos. But yeah, a Wahhabist from Pakistan, and clearly Southern Asian, if you look at his face. And they say father and son. And the guy who stopped him is apparently Syrian, while the police cowered. Candace Owens said back on November 27th, they have been signaling that a 9/11 style attack is coming the second week of December. Save this tweet; it will age well. As Brandon Taylor Moore said on X, Candace for win. It's not an accident. A Jewish event was being held at Bondi Beach. They false flagged their own people to maintain victimhood so they can further more global atrocities without being questioned and blame the Muslims. Rinse and repeat. Yeah, and by the way, this isn't me endorsing Islam because Wahabi Islam is not a great thing at all and has absolutely devastated the West. But again, by design, all this is by design. And I think most people at this point in time are seeing through the propaganda. It's pretty obvious what we just saw in Washington D.C., what we're seeing at Brown University, what we're like with people that were at Parkland and all these other places and then just happen to be there. I'm not saying anyone's faking anything. I'm just saying that it seems to me like there are way too many coincidences these days in all these events. And of course, this guy that is brought into Australia and in a place where you can't get guns and suddenly gets these rifles and handguns as well that were at the scene and manages to massacre a bunch of people at a Jewish event, which by the way would look really bad for Islam and would lead to the destruction of the Islamic community. So why would they shoot themselves in the foot unless it's an op? To me, it seems clear this is an op. I'm not saying it can't happen that someone shoots himself in the foot because they do stupid things, but father and son, they go out and start killing people on the beach, targeting a Jewish event. Why would they do that? If anything, right now, they would be like pretty happy about the way the information war is working when it comes to Zionism and all those things, because the majority of people on the left and right are against it. So why would he do that? It makes no sense. But again, not saying it can't happen. Lots of stupid people out there. And it's absolutely sick. Children were attacked in this ruthless attack, but I never put it past governments or agencies, intelligence agencies, to be involved in these things because they almost always are. They always end up being caught in one way or another being involved in these events. Now, this guy who also happened to be at October 7th is photographed after he said that a bullet grazed his head. As Elijah Schaefer says, they've somehow made the Bondi mass shooting is about combating anti-Semitism. This is the main face of the victims. He's a top 50 global Jewish leader, according to the Jerusalem Post. He moved to Australia 2 weeks ago to manipulate the political system to fight anti-Semitism. Coincidence? Seems sus. Yeah, especially considering allegedly he was at October 7th as well. And he has time to take a photo, and the actual original has words on the screen. Help me. They're attacking the Jews or something like that. It's just, again, all plausible technically. I just don't buy it. And I know most of you out there don't buy it either because like we've been through this way too many times. We've seen too many attacks over the years. And every single time it just doesn't add up. And we know intelligence agencies utilize these things in order to rile people up against each other, cause divide, cause demoralization, and come in with new restrictions, security restrictions, which we're seeing across the board right now, including in the United States, where they are banning people from entering the country without 5 years of social media history, 10 years of email history, biometrics, retina scans, all this crazy stuff, of photo metadata. And if you criticize Israel online, you can't enter the US in most cases. Like, what? And they're coming in with these digital IDs right now in the UK, mandated regarding mass migration, which again, they created in the first place. They're the ones that shipped all these people in after bombing their countries, devastating regions, killing millions of people, by the way, the US and Canada. And of course, the UK and Australia was involved, and France was involved. Germany was involved. All these deaths on people's hands, and then they come in with restrictions that, again, just seem too convenient. Oh, we just shipped in a bunch of people that go against your culture and make you a minority in your own home, and they don't fit culturally with you, and there's all these problems that arise from this. And then Now we'll come in with biometrics and digital IDs, which the left was pushing before. Now the right's pushing under the guise of stopping mass migration and stopping a cultural shift. I mean, it's insane. The fact that people can't see through it just tells me exactly where we're at. It doesn't matter. People are exhausted. It doesn't matter how much propaganda comes out. People will just keep falling for it because they don't want to step out of the social line. And they know that, with the incoming digital IDs and all this stuff, which is happening right now, they want to be able to feed themselves and their family. So they will not break any rules and they'll sit on their hands and allow it to happen and basically sell out their children's futures at the expense of not being in trouble. Rat on their neighbor to get extra social credit points. I mean, it's obvious what's happening. And they create the problem, they get a reaction, they come in with a solution. It's a Hegelian dialectic, problem reaction solution, repeat for eternity. That's what they always do. And the end goal is technocracy. In the World Economic Forum agenda, they said themselves that they need the right crisis to come in with these restrictions. It's not as much these days about war as it is about technocratic control. They used war for a long time. They're going to end that old world order with war to shift into the new world order, which is emergency orders, technocracy, and people basically voluntarily selling themselves out to Big Brother. And we're already seeing that with these insane new rules from the left with the climate agenda and going up against free speech, and from the right, from the immigration agenda and going against free speech. And they will make a story out of this Bondi Beach attack. There will likely be more very soon. I'm just guessing because they always do this in bunches around December and January. It always seems to happen every single damn year. We saw the attacks in January this year as well, 2025. And it's just a shame. It's just a shame because people will fall into line to avoid having to fall into that, be on the bad side of the new emergency orders, which the United Nations says we just need terrorist attacks and pandemics, and we need a climate catastrophe, and we need cyber attacks, we need grid down and supply chain issues, and we need civil unrest, and we need all these things in order to an economic collapse to bring in these emergency orders. And they have them already signed into law. It's just they need the right crisis. And I'm very concerned about where this is going, and they're going to utilize this as normalization of anti-Semitism and all these things to bring in further laws like they did with the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act. After like $900 billion was just spent extra on the defense budget in the United States. And I mean, we're going to see this across the board. We saw this, these attempts after the Christchurch massacre in New Zealand. And there's no evidence of this going away anytime soon. And again, I've said many times, like, the solution isn't voting for a certain politician. It isn't, sitting on your hands. It's not going out and protesting necessarily. The solution comes from you, because the end goal is that you have no free will anymore. You have no independence, and independence is the basis of humanity itself. And you end up taking the rations they give you, bowing to their social credit order and their technocracy, because tyranny comes under the guise of convenience and safety and national security and all this bullshit. So once again, I say, tragic incident, horrible thing, very strange things coming out of it, worth questioning. And I hope everyone watching right now takes heed of the caution and gets prepared today. So I'm going to end this once again, like every other video. Heavensharvest.com. I make like nothing off this, but I hope people pay attention. 25% off right now over at heavensharvest.com. If you use code WAM, WAM, they'll get you long-term storable food that's non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Freeze-dried food is included there as well. And it allows you to not fall prey to that technocratic system later, where they want you on food rations, and I guarantee you they're not going to be healthy. That's the digital ID goal. We also have Wave Watch 2.2, which I mentioned earlier. Code WAM, WAM, will save you over $100 on it. 1,250 frequencies, no Wi-Fi required. helps you with sleep and energy and nerves and cellular function. Endorsed by people like Dr. Brian Artis. Again, go and check that out below right now. Avoid the CBDC and digital ID system by going to firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/ Has to be that exact link. The link is in the description of our videos on Rumble and BitChute at World Alternative Media. There you could buy physical gold, silver, platinum, or palladium, hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system. Schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and get a complimentary investors package as well. Let him know in the comments of the forum that you found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. I hope you join us at Anarchapulco. Anarchapulco.com is linked below. On February 15th to 20th, 2026 in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where I live, I'll be speaking there. If you want to use code WAM, WAM, you'll save 10% on your tickets. I highly recommend people come out. There's amazing speakers. Jeff Berwick, Gareth Ide, Curtis Stone, of course, Charlie Robinson, Greg Reese, people like Max Egan and Dr. Andrew Kaufman, Christian Yordanov. The list goes on and on and on. Vid Jedlicka, the president of Liberland, Ernest Hancock, good friends of ours. I hope to see you over there. So again, use code WAM, WAM, and you'll get 10% off on your tickets. As we close this off, I need all the help we can get over here at WAM. We are regularly bankrupted, and you guys are the only thing that helps keep us alive. So I want to thank everyone who has helped us recently. Of course, Ben Starr, Matt, Vincent, thank you guys for your support. I truly, truly appreciate it. We need it. Of course, there's Patreon and Subscribe Star. If you pledge $4.99 a month or more on there, you'll get exclusive content, including early access and personalized video messages. Of course, we have a PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. We have a Bitcoin address that you can scan on the screen here or check out in the description of our video in text form. We have our Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please, including privacy coins. And we have our Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise that helps support us as well. Anyway, find us on Telegram, band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson. And on the bad guys, TikTok and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms except for Spotify, where, of course, we're banned. Hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already. And as always, my friends, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.